When Earth's greatest secret was revealed, Captain Sarah Chen stood in the command center of humanity's greatest secret, watching the holographic display show the approaching Zephyrian fleet. The massive supercarrier Prometheus had been hidden in the Kuiper Belt for 15 years, and today would be the day the galaxy learned that Earth was not the helpless world they believed it to be. The bridge around her hummed with quiet efficiency. 200 of Earth's best military minds worked at stations filled with technology that would make even the most advanced alien civilizations pause in wonder, but none of them knew if it would be enough. "Captain, incoming transmission from Earth Command," announced Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb, her communications officer. His voice carried the tension that everyone felt. "Put it through," Sarah replied, her dark eyes never leaving the tactical display. Admiral Rodriguez appeared on the main screen, his weathered face showing the strain of the past week. Behind him, Sarah could see the chaos of Earth's military headquarters. "Sarah, the Zephyrians have destroyed 3 more colonies: New Shanghai, Kepler Station, and the mining facilities on Ceres. They're not taking prisoners." Sarah's jaw tightened. The Zephyrian Empire had been testing human defenses for months, probing what they believed to be a weak species that had somehow spread across several star systems. Like most galactic powers, they saw humanity as upstart primitives who had gotten lucky with faster-than-light travel. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "What's the status of our other assets?" Sarah asked. "Titan base is ready. The shipyards around Jupiter have completed the final preparations. Hercules and Atlas are standing by in their positions." Rodriguez paused. "Sarah, you know this changes everything. Once we reveal ourselves, there's no going back to the shadows." Sarah nodded. For 50 years, humanity had played a careful game. When they first encountered alien civilizations, Earth's leaders realized they were surrounded by species that had been spacefaring for thousands of years. Rather than announce their presence with fanfare, humanity had chosen a different path. They pretended to be weaker than they were. While alien observers saw primitive human ships barely capable of interstellar travel, the truth was far different. Hidden in asteroid belts, empty star systems, and the dark spaces between planets, humanity had been building not just ships, but an entire hidden navy that incorporated technology decades ahead of what they showed the galaxy. The Prometheus was the crown jewel of this secret fleet. 3 kilometers long, equipped with quantum computers that could calculate hyperspace jumps with impossible precision, armed with weapons that bent the very fabric of space-time, and protected by shields that could phase the ship partially out of normal reality. "Captain, the Zephyrian fleet is approaching the Mars orbital station," reported Commander Elena Vasquez from the tactical station. 27 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts. Sarah watched the display update. The Zephyrians were following their standard pattern, approaching what they believed to be humanity's main defensive position around Mars. The orbital station there looked impressive enough, but it was mostly for show. The real defenses were hidden, scattered, and far more dangerous than any alien force had ever encountered. "Area, what's your assessment?" Sarah asked. The ship's artificial intelligence materialized as a shimmering hologram beside the captain's chair. Aria looked like a woman in her 30s with silver hair and eyes that seemed to hold the depth of space itself. She was not just a computer, but a true AI consciousness that had been developed in secret by Earth's brightest minds. "Captain Chen, the Zephyrian fleet formation suggests they expect minimal resistance," Aria said in her calm, melodious voice. "Their dreadnoughts are positioned for orbital bombardment rather than ship-to-ship combat. They clearly believe they're attacking a defenseless world." Sarah smiled grimly. "Then let's educate them. Signal all hidden positions. Operation Revelation is now active." Across the solar system, humanity's true strength began to reveal itself. Hidden bases on asteroids powered up their weapon systems. Ships that had been disguised as mining vessels shed their camouflage to reveal military hulls bristling with advanced technology. The shipyards of Jupiter released dozens of sleek destroyers that had been kept in reserve, but the Prometheus was the centerpiece of it all. "Take us out of stealth mode," Sarah ordered. The Supercarrier began to shimmer as its cloaking systems disengaged. The Prometheus had been hiding in plain sight among the ice and rock of the Kuiper Belt. its hull camouflaged to look like just another large asteroid. Now, as the disguise fell away, the ship's true magnificence was revealed. The Zephyrian fleet. Commander Admiral Kethvar was reviewing the tactical display aboard his flagship when his sensors officer made a sound of confusion. "Admiral, we're detecting something unusual." "Explain," Kethvar commanded, his forearms moving in the gesture of impatience common to his species. "Sir, there appears to be a large vessel emerging from the outer system. Our computers are having difficulty analyzing it. The energy signatures don't match any known human technology." Admiral Kethvar examined the sensor data with growing concern. The object was massive, easily twice the size of his largest dreadnought. More concerning were the energy readings that suggested technology far more advanced than anything humans had previously demonstrated. "Could it be a derelict from another species?" asked his tactical officer. Before Kethvar could respond, his communication station lit up with an incoming transmission. The image that appeared on his screen showed a human female in a crisp military uniform, standing on what was clearly an advanced bridge surrounded by technology that made his own flagship seem primitive. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force vessel Prometheus," the human said, her voice carrying absolute authority. "You are ordered to cease your attack on human territories and withdraw immediately." Kethavar's mandibles clicked, in what humans might have interpreted as nervous laughter. "Human, you are vastly outnumbered. Surrender your vessel and we may consider allowing your planet to maintain some degree of autonomy under Zephyrian rule." Sarah's expression didn't change. "Admiral, I'm going to give you a demonstration of why that won't be happening. Area, target their lead dreadnought with a quantum disruption pulse. Minimal power." The AI's response was immediate. "Targeting solution acquired, Captain. Firing quantum disruption pulse at 12% power." From the Prometheus came a beam of energy unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. It wasn't the crude plasma bolts or particle beams used by most galactic civilizations. This was something that seemed to twist space itself, reaching across the vast distance between ships in an instant. The beam struck the shields of the Zephyrian dreadnought, and something impossible happened. The shields didn't overload or collapse. They simply ceased to exist, as if the quantum structure that held them together had been unraveled at the fundamental level. Alarms blared across the Zephyrian flagship as Admiral Kethvar stared at readings that made no sense. The dreadnought's shields hadn't been overwhelmed by superior firepower. They had been dissolved by technology that operated on principles his science officers couldn't even begin to understand. "That was a warning shot," Captain Chen said calmly. "The next one will target your engines. I suggest you reconsider your position." But Admiral Kethvar had not risen to command the Third Battle Fleet by backing down from challenges. Pride and military doctrine demanded that he respond to this unprecedented situation with force. "All ships target the human vessel. Maximum firepower." 27 Zephyrian warships opened fire simultaneously. Streams of plasma, particle beams, and kinetic projectiles converged on the Prometheus, in a display of firepower that should have vaporized any ship in known space. The weapons struck the Supercarrier and simply vanished. The Prometheus was protected by dimensional shielding, a technology that Earth's scientists had developed by studying the theoretical physics of parallel universes. The shields didn't absorb or deflect incoming attacks. They shifted the ship slightly out of phase with normal reality, causing enemy weapons to pass through empty space while the ship remained untouched. "Arya, I think we've made our point," Sarah said. "Time to show them what human engineering can really do." The Prometheus began to move, and its motion defied everything the Zephyrians thought they knew about space combat. Instead of the slow, ponderous movements typical of large warships, the Supercarrier moved with the grace and speed of a fighter craft. Its revolutionary drive system manipulated gravity itself, allowing it to change direction and accelerate in ways that should have been impossible for something its size. As the Prometheus closed the distance to the Zephyrian fleet, more human ships began appearing throughout the solar system. They emerged from hidden bases, dropped their disguises, and revealed technology that proved humanity had been far from idle during their supposed weakness. The Battle of Mars, as historians would later call it, lasted exactly 37 minutes. Not because the fighting was brief, but because that's how long it took for the Zephyrian fleet to realize they were completely outmatched and request terms for withdrawal. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus as the alien fleet began its retreat, but her expression was not one of celebration. Through the viewports, she could see the lights of Mars and the orbital stations where millions of humans lived their daily lives unaware of how close they had come to destruction. "Aria, what's the status of our deep space sensors?" The AI materialized beside her, her expression unusually serious. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple fleets moving toward our position. It appears news of today's events has spread quickly through alien communication networks." Sarah nodded grimly. She had known this day would come eventually. Humanity's secret was out, and the galaxy was about to learn that the species they had dismissed as primitive upstarts was actually one of the most technologically advanced civilizations in known space. The real test was just beginning. How 1. Ship changed everything. 3 days after the Battle of Mars, Captain Sarah Chen found herself facing a situation no human commander had ever encountered. The bridge of the Prometheus hummed with activity as her crew monitored the approach of not one, but 7 different alien fleets, representing the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. "Captain, we're receiving transmissions from the Galactic Council," reported Lieutenant Commander Webb. "They're demanding immediate negotiations." Sarah studied the tactical display showing the converging fleets. The Altarian Empire, the Nexus Collective, the Vorthan Republic, and 4 other major powers had united for the first time in recorded history. Their combined force included over 300 warships representing firepower that could theoretically crack planets. "Area analysis." The AI appeared beside her, her expression thoughtful. "Captain, this is unprecedented. These civilizations have been rivals for millennia, yet they've put aside all conflicts to address what they perceive as the human threat. The quantum disruption technology we displayed has fundamentally altered their understanding of galactic power balance." Admiral Rodriguez appeared on the communication screen from Earth Command, his face showing the strain of 72 hours without sleep. "Sarah, the political situation is evolving rapidly. Half the galaxy thinks we're a hidden threat that needs to be eliminated. The other half wants to ally with us immediately." "What about the smaller worlds?" Sarah asked. "That's where it gets interesting," Rodriguez replied. "The client species, the ones who've been under the thumb of these major powers for centuries, are watching very carefully. Some are already reaching out through back channels asking if Earth would be willing to offer protection." Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. In revealing humanity's true capabilities, they had done more than just defend Earth. They had potentially started a galactic revolution. "Captain," Commander Vasquez called from her station, "the combined fleet is taking up position at the edge of the solar system. They're requesting permission to enter for negotiations." "Denied," Sarah said immediately. "We negotiate from a position of strength, not from Earth's backyard. Aria, prepare the Prometheus for deep space operations. We're going to meet them halfway." As the Supercarrier began its journey to the negotiation point, Sarah reflected on how much had changed in just 3 days. Intelligence reports showed that across the galaxy, oppressed species were beginning to ask dangerous questions. If humanity could hide such advanced technology, what else might be possible? If Earth could stand up to the great powers, why couldn't others? The meeting point was an empty region of space between Mars and Jupiter. As the Prometheus arrived, Sarah was struck by the sight of the combined alien fleet. Ships from 7 different civilizations, each representing thousands of years of military tradition and technological development, but she was no longer intimidated. "Incoming transmission from the Altarian flagship," Webb announced. The main screen, filled with the image of Empress Zarathul, the crystalline leader of the Altarian Empire. Her species was ancient, proud, and had never been forced to negotiate as equals with what they considered a primitive race. "Captain Chen," the Empress began, her translated voice carrying tones of barely controlled anger, "you have violated the established order of galactic civilization. Your deception threatens the stability that has maintained peace for centuries." Sarah stood, her posture radiating calm confidence. Your Majesty, with respect, the peace you speak of has been built on the oppression of smaller worlds and the assumption that might makes right. Humanity has simply chosen not to participate in that system. By hiding your true capabilities, you have made every calculation of power in this galaxy meaningless, interjected General Korth of the Nexus Collective, his mechanical augmentations whirring as he spoke. How many other species might be concealing similar developments? That, Sarah replied, is exactly the question you should be asking. The negotiation continued for hours, with representatives from each major power demanding explanations, assurances, and, in some cases, the immediate surrender of human technology. But Sarah had not come to surrender anything. Arya, she said, during a pause in the discussions, show them the Atlas and Hercules. Two more supercarriers decloaked in different areas of the solar system, their massive forms appearing on the tactical displays of every ship in the combined fleet. The alien commanders had assumed they were dealing with a single advanced vessel. The revelation that humanity had built multiple ships of this capability sent shockwaves through their ranks. How many more? Demanded Admiral Thexron of the Vorthan Republic. Enough, Sarah replied simply. But the real surprise came when Arya announced an incoming transmission from an unexpected source. Captain, we're receiving a signal from the Kepler colony survivors. The screen showed Commander Elena Rodriguez, no relation to Earth's Admiral Rodriguez, broadcasting from a heavily damaged station. Captain Chen, this is Kepler Station. We've been monitoring the negotiations. We want you to know that 17 minor species in this sector have sent us messages of support. They're asking if humanity would consider offering protection against the major powers. The silence that followed was deafening. The great galactic civilizations were realizing that their actions had already begun to unravel the system that had kept them in power for millennia. Empress Zarathul was the first to speak. You seek to replace our order with your own. No, Sarah replied firmly. We seek to replace your order with actual order. One based on cooperation rather than domination. Impossible, scoffed General Korth. Smaller species cannot govern themselves. They require guidance. From species like yours that have spent centuries exploiting them. Sarah's voice carried a sharp edge. I think they might disagree. As if summoned by her words, new signals began appearing on the communication channels. Representatives from dozens of minor species, many of whom had never dared speak directly to the major powers, were requesting permission to join the negotiations. The Altarian Empress looked around at her supposed allies, seeing uncertainty where there had once been absolute confidence. What do you propose? Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define not just humanity's future, but the future of galactic civilization itself. We propose a new galactic council, she said, one where every species has a voice regardless of military power, where conflicts are resolved through negotiation rather than conquest, where technological advancement is shared rather than hoarded. And, if we refuse, asked Admiral Thexron. Sarah's expression hardened. Then you'll discover that humanity has developed more than just defensive capabilities. As if to emphasize her point, space around the negotiation area began to shimmer. Dozens of human ships appeared, not just the massive supercarriers, but sleek destroyers, support vessels, and craft whose purposes were unclear, but whose advanced technology was obvious. We've been preparing for this day for 50 years, Sarah continued. Not because we wanted war, but because we wanted to ensure that when this moment came, we would have the strength to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The negotiations that followed would reshape galactic civilization. Some of the major powers agreed to the new order, recognizing that the alternative might be far worse for them. Others refused and found themselves facing not just humanity, but coalitions of minor species that had suddenly found the courage to stand up for themselves. The Prometheus became more than just a ship. It became a symbol of hope for the oppressed and a reminder to the powerful that true strength came not from the ability to conquer, but from the willingness to protect. 6 months later, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the Prometheus, now serving as the flagship of the new Galactic Defense Force. Through the viewport, she could see ships from dozens of species working together, sharing technology and resources in ways that would have been unthinkable under the old system. "Captain," Arya appeared beside her, "we're receiving the final report from the Integration Committee. The last of the old Empire holdouts has agreed to join the new council structure." Sarah smiled. "And the minor species?" "Thriving," Arya replied. "Trade is up 300%. Technological development has accelerated across the board, and for the first time in galactic history, we're seeing genuine cooperation rather than mere coexistence." "Any regrets about revealing our capabilities?" Sarah asked. Arya considered the question with the deep thoughtfulness that only a true AI could manage. "Captain, humanity spent 50 years hiding its light under a bushel, as your ancient saying goes. But light was meant to illuminate, not to hide. By revealing what we could do, we didn't just save Earth, we saved the galaxy from itself." As Sarah watched a group of ships from 5 different species working together to establish a new colony, she reflected on the lesson that humanity had taught the galaxy. True power wasn't about the ability to destroy, but about the wisdom to know when and how to use strength in service of something greater. The Prometheus and her sister ships continued to patrol the spaceways, not as conquerors but as guardians of a new era where intelligence, cooperation, and mutual respect had replaced fear and dominance as the driving forces of galactic civilization. In the end, humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wasn't their advanced technology or their powerful ships. It was the simple but revolutionary idea that strength should be used to protect the weak, not to exploit them. And across the galaxy, species that had spent millennia in fear began to dream of a future where they could reach for the stars not as subjects but as partners in the greatest adventure of all.